And we're on Daf Chavav in Beis, and we're continuing the statement of Rabbi Akiva in which he enumerates the validity of Karka Kol Shehu Lichtov Aleh Pruzbul. The takon of Pruzbul to circumvent the law of Shmitas Ksofim only applies if the lova has Karka. And even if he only has a small plot of land, a Karka Koldu, that's sufficient to validate the Pruzbul. And this was the takon of Hillel HaZaken, that if the lova writes a pruzbul in which he gives over to the dayanim the rights for the bezdin to collect the chov, that there's no shmita on such a chov. But again, it only works on condition that the lova has karka, but karka koldu is sufficient. And then kinyan agav, v'liknos imon nechasim shein lemachrai. So you have the smallest piece of karka, you can be makne metaltalin on a very small piece of karka. So the Gemara says, Rav Yosef is medaik I amrit be'inin tziburin. If in order to effectuate a kinyan agav, you need that the metaltalin be actually sitting on the karka, is kol shulamai chazi. He's got a small piece of karka. He wants to be makne him, who knows how many sheep, and it's not tziburin. It's not located in the karka. It's a karka kolshu. So the Gemara says no. There's no proof because Tirgum Rav Yosef Arbis Nekamid Rav Yosef Kigon Shenotzbo Machat. He puts a machat in a small piece of karka and he's makna the machat as metaltal and agav the karka. So you do require tzibur. Omle Rav Yosef Kvaston. You've got me angry. Ichpal Tana Lashmein and Machat. Did the Tana give this whole arichus to teach me the law about a machat? A machat is almost valueless. Maybe he put a pearl that's worth 1,000 zuz on this small piece of karka. And therefore, when the Tana wants to teach me about a machat, it's relevant to a pearl that's worth 1,000 zuz. Toshma, let's try another raya. Amar Abelazar Maisa b'Medoni Echad, a person came from Madon, Shahei b'Yushalayim, and Hoyle Metalton Harbikish Litno Matoni. He wants to give away a massive amount of metalton as a gift. Amar lo, the Chacham say lo takona ad sheyaknem al gabi karka. It's impossible to do a kinyan meshicha on each one of the pieces of this metaltal that he wants to give as matana. So the best way of doing it is to be maknag of karka. Me'asa. So what did he do? How did he get himself karka? Holach v'lokach beis sela. Beis sela means it's karka the size of a coin. Like let's say, for example, they used to have silver coins that were worth $1. Right? I don't know if you can still get them. I don't know. Maybe they're out of circulation. But anyway, so it's this small. That's the amount of karka that he purchased. Somach Yushalayim. Omar, and he said Tzfoni knows the karka on the northern side, Liploni. I'm being mocked to someone else. The imo, meaning agav, this karka, the small piece of karka, 100 sheep and 100 barrels. But mess, and he died. And the question is that kinyan valid? The kimu estvara, they validated his kinyan. So the Gemara again is going to ask v'yamr be'in and tziburim ba is base seller l'may chazi. You have something so small in karka that it's the size of a coin, and you're going to be makna all these metalta. It must be that you don't need tziburim. And the word rejection, me savris base seller. You misinterpreted the word base seller. We thought it means a house or a karka the size of a seller. No. Seller mamish. Now, what does that mean? Seller mamish. My seller did nofish tuva. In other words, it's a base seller, meaning that's a very wide area, very extensive piece of real estate. But my Carl is seller, why do you call it? Seller the koshi kisel. It happens to be that ground that was very arid and it wasn't royal Israel, and therefore he got a cheap deal on it. But anyway, you can't prove that you don't need tziburim because now we're interpreting base seller as a wide expanse of land. Toshma. Let's prove one way or the other based on the statement of Rav. A man had a need for a Maisa Kinyan. He wanted to be makna his chafotzim to someone else. And Cholav Yushalayim. Now again, we're not sure what this means, Cholav Yushalayim. The Gemara now is going to offer two possibilities. First of which is Kirav Yelos, that we're talking about a Shchiv Meirah. But Rabbi Loz's Shita is that Aim Divrei Shchiv Meirah Keksuvim Ksurim Domi. And even a Shchiv Meirah on his deathbed needs a kinyan like a bari, like a healthy person. B'yamri le'od to say bari, he was actually healthy. Rabbanon, who would say that in Shchiv Meirah Keksuvim Ksurim Domi, you don't even need a Maisa kinyan. So this guy who's either a Shchiv Meirah or he's a bari, he wanted to give away all his metaltalin as a matana for a certain person. And again, on those words, Ein lo takana, we'll have a whole Gemara here, why he couldn't find any other kinyan. But the Chacham told him that the only kinyan that will be helpful for you and meaningful for you in this case is Achiyaknim al Gavi Karka, in such a way that you'll be mocked in the metaltalin agav a piece of karka. However, he didn't have any karka. Me'osa holafalokach base rova, a karka in the size of Zrias Reva Hakav, Samach L'Yushalayim, v'Omer Tefach al Tefach L'Plonim. A small part of this base rova I'm giving to someone. So v'imo, together with that karka, I'm giving him me'at someone, me'at chavius, me'asikim v'dvar. Iyam epein and siburim is tefach al tefach l'may chazi. How can he put someone or a chavios on top of a tefach al tefach, 1 square tefach? And he answers, it doesn't mean that he wanted to give a matana as we thought of it as tzon and chavis, but rather he wanted to give dummy, he wanted to give currency, hard, cold cash. And therefore it's very possible that even in a small area of a tefach al tefach, you have a pocketbook that has inside of it a vast amount of money, enough money to buy 100 sheep and 100 barrels. And Hachina Mistabeh, if we medai carefully in the language of the Tana, this is the conclusion we'll come to. The Isal Kedaitach, Me'etzor Me'ev Chavios Mamish. If you're going to tell me that the story happened that he really wanted to be mocked, they're not dumbing to the value of Me'etzon, but Me'etzon Mamish. So why did they say Ein lo takana? Nikninu niu b'chalipin. Although chalipin is not operative and valid for kesef, but it is valid for metaltalin. So he could have been makna the metaltalin b'chalipin with the kinyan suda. Why do they have to tell him, get yourself a piece of karka, nagav karka? And we see here clearly that we're not talking about me'at tzon, me'at chovios mamish, but rather we're talking about domim. That's why chalipin is not an option, because you can't be makna domim like any metalton with chalipin. So the Gemara wants to reject this. Ve'elamai, what are you trying to prove? That lidmei, that he was makna the mos, not the physical tzon and the chaviz, as we said, dmei is the mos, the matbeos. So the Gemara says, but okay, even if I agree with you on that, niknu nila b'mashicha, why can't you do mashicha on the mos? So again, the Rabbanan drove this guy crazy. They said, you need a kinyan agav. And the Gemara is trying to figure out, why did the Chacham tell him he needs a kinyan agav? Because if it's dummy, he could be kohen v'mashicha. Let him just grab onto the bag of matbeos. Ella, therefore, we have no choice but to assume that the reason why he wasn't maknim, he wasn't maknim him the most b'mashicha is the lesson of makabel matana. Because to do mashicha, you needed to look after, do the ma'aseh mashicha, and he wasn't around. is Hochinami, then we have the right to say the same thing with regard to the question of why they weren't makdim b'metaltalin. Is the lesser the makabel matana. The makabel is not around, and Kinyan Suda has to be in front of the lokeh. Or in this case, the makabel matan. Affecting more of an iski'idu niulo agav acher. Why isn't he appointed shliach, who would stand in place of and represent the lokeach, and then he could be maknit to the shliach of the lokeach in many different ways, whether it be chalipin, whether it be meshicha. And the word says, "Lo samchadait," a person doesn't rely on a shliach. Savar shavit v'yachalahu. Even though the shliach will take the money and he'll put it in a safe place, but with the passage of time, he might eventually use the most, mistakenly thinking it's his, or possibly even deliberately stealing them. So since he's got this suspicion, his chash, he's not comfortable, then he has to be makdim the metaltalin b'kinyan agav. So wait a minute, how does kinyan agav solve the problem? Oh, I get it. In other words, the most did not have to be transferred over to anybody because the shliach will just be that small piece of karka, and agav the karka, he could be kona the most. Belamai ein lo takana. So the Gemara now is medaik in the language of ein lo takana. That's not really true. I mean, there are many different options for kinyanim. It's just that this guy was choshesh, to enjoy the benefits of those options. So Gemara answers, Hachi kamar lemai dilo somchadaite, given the fact that he was unsettled about using a shliach to represent him for Kinyan Mashiach, is elo takana achi yaknem al gavi karka. So again, what the Gemara is saying now is Gemara is arguing that other kinyanim would be valid, but just if there's no smichas das on the part of the kona, then the only option left is a kinyan ag. Toshma, okay, this is a big sugya, but we'll just start it. Ma'asav Ram Gamliel's kenim shayibam b'sfina. So Ram Gamliel, together with a bunch of tanoim, and we can figure out even what their names were. Anyway, so they're on their way in a boat, and Rav Gamliel all of a sudden reminds himself that he has in his house back on shore, back on dry land. Excuse me. He has peros of tevel, and he never appointed anyone in his household to be mafresh shumas and maestros, and now he wants to be master them on the boat, so that his children will not eat from this tevel. So Amar Lehem Rav Gamliel's kenim. So Gamliel turns to these kenim. Amongst them were Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, Rabbi Akiva. Isur shadi osid lamud. In the future, I'll be mafresh 1/10 for maser. And when I get home, that will be Maser Rishon. And Maser Rishon has to be given to a Levi. So you see on the top of Chav Zayin, it says, Nasun lo Yoshua. This is Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanani, who was a Levi. And now he was Mekayim and a scene of Maser Rishon to a Levi. Umekomo, Muskarlo. How can he be Makna from long distance, 1/10 of his produce as Maser? And the answer is he was Maskir him, meaning to Yoshua, the shtickle karka underneath the peros, underneath the tvur, Muskarlo. And Memela, he has a kinyan agav. Okay, that's as far as Maser Rishon. As far as Maser Sheni, Maser Oni is concerned. Iser Achrani Osid Loman Osin Lo Le'akiv Ben Yosef. He was the Gabbai of the Aniyim. Kidei Sheyizke Bo L'Aniyim Umakomo Muskarlo. And once again, Rabbi Akiva could acquire ownership through Kinyan Agav, because the ground underneath the Maser Oni is now being rented out to Rabbi Akiva. From the fact that Dafka, the Mokom where the Maser is, whether it's the Maser for Rabbi Yeshua Maser Levi, or the Maser for Rabbi Akiva Maser Ani, it's always got to be a karka that is muskarlo, and it's underneath the peros. So you see, you need siburim. Because otherwise, you need siburim, because otherwise, if you don't need siburim, why do you have to be maskir him, karka, dafka in that mokum when the masters are located? He could have chosen, a karka anywhere from the whole veld. But the Gemara rejects this proof. Shiny chosam ki hechi delo l'trachinu. In other words, you don't need siburin for a kinyan agav. And that which we learned in the Mishnah, that Rabbi Gamliel was makna the karka of the Makov Maser, that was a different situation. Why? Because he didn't want to be matriach them when he would arrive home. They wouldn't have to, rush and take away the masros and so forth and so on. So he made life easier for them. Okay, then, so this is where we are on Daf Chav Zayin. So let me take this opportunity to wish you a great Shabbos, and Mir Hashem, we'll get together on